thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. Welcome back to part 2 of our analysis into the 6 warning signs where parents might be crossing the line in terms of their child rearing. If you missed part 1, make sure to check that out first, because we covered some really important points on the subtle ways parenting can tip into controlling or harmful territory. Number 3, infantilizing a child can be as damaging as sexualizing or adultification. Now, if we go back to this case of the Australian ballerina via CNN, they took her to the bathroom, they blew her nose, they brushed her hair, as she watched cartoons more suitable for toddlers. This is infantilizing a young person. She weighed just 60 pounds, that's under 30 kilograms. That's about the same size as a 9-year-old. Her parents also failed to let Kate, that's actually not a real name, grow up as a normal child, normal girl, a normal teenager. Nothing even remotely age-appropriate was present in the family's home, the judge said, pointing to the films and TV shows she watched, Teletubbies, Frozen, and Thomas the Tank Engine. It's interesting how television and movies make significant entries into both cases, helping to shape or distort the identities of the children who are consuming them. We know that JonBenet often went to sleep watching Shirley Temple videos in her bedroom. We also know at least one investigator, Holly Smith, went into JonBenet's room and couldn't get a feel on this little girl based on her bedroom. Now, although JonBenet's weight was, I think, nowhere near the extremes of this Australian ballerina's, there have been reports that her weight had dropped. I can't remember if it was Judith Phillips or one of the housekeepers who said when she next saw JonBenet, she was thinner. But let's have a look at this interview, where the subject of JonBenet's changing appearance is broached. And she talks about seeing someone else that had lost weight and asked Judith Phillips to respond. Says, in terms of her looks, did you see a lot of stress in JonBenet over a period of time or not? And Judith says, of course I saw the physical changes with her hair, and that she was dressed up like at her Christmas party, she was dressed up in this Cinderella ball gown. And, to be fair, obviously in a pageant scenario, you are going to see physical transformation. But what Judith is talking about here is her wearing things not at a pageant, at things like Christmas parties and, out of that situation. And Judith says, I'd never seen her in clothes like that. I hadn't seen that before. And she was so perfectly coiffed, makeup. And when I did the photo shoot in the studio, where her mom and Burke and Nidra were there, I saw her looking a little different. And then she also says, it was obvious to me that this was a little girl that had changed a lot, that I didn't know. But then she also says, I did not see the stress of JonBenet at all. What she did see was Patsy in a frenzy, those are her words, that Patsy was really tense and the kids were like real stiff. Now, I don't know whether saying that the kids were stiff is stress. I would think that stiffness is a sign of stress. Anyway, the housekeeper says, okay, pageants were very significant. It was a status thing. So you'll often hear how the pageants are minimized, but some of the observers say, no, it was a really big deal. And then she talks about this story where JonBenet often went to McDonald's and then suddenly that changed. JonBenet looked at her and said, eating McDonald's makes you fat. That's another change. For a really young person, that's quite strange, quite interesting. Number 4, overparenting is harmful. Back to CNN. Last month, her parents, an Australian couple in their mid-40s, were sentenced to prison in Perth's District Court of Western Australia for neglecting their only child, even as they ferried her to and from piano and ballet lessons. Now, we know that Patsy also involved JonBenet in many activities, from rock climbing to playing the violin to obviously pageants. We normally tend to think of neglect as a lack of attention, but it can also be the wrong kind of attention. That's what I'm trying to emphasize in this analysis. As well as the failure to deal with certain issues, while over-focusing on others. And here's an example from the Ramsey archives, and this involves Dr. Booth. Peter Boyles, the radio show host, says to Linda Wilcox, the former housekeeper, "Tell the audience the infamous chickenpox story." She responds, "Okay, it was the summer of 95. This was a year before her death. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks before they left for Michigan. So this did happen in Boulder. JonBenet was 4. This was during the time that Dr. Booth treated her. She was getting ready to turn 5 that August, and her and Burke both caught the chickenpox. I was there cleaning in the kitchen, that's in the home. Burke was upstairs itching like mad. He had them all over. He was in bed with the TV in his room, playing videos. JonBenet was in the TV room, sitting at a small table in her nightgown, doing something quiet like coloring. One has almost the sense that these children are being brought up through television and videos. The child, that's JonBenet, had a fever. She's sitting there coloring. Patsy's in the kitchen on the telephone with the doctor. I figured, she's going to call the doctor to find out what to give the kids. And the conversation went, well, JonBenet's got chickenpox and she's got these spots on her face and we need to have a photo shoot in about 3 days. Is there anything you can give her to get rid of the spots? And then she says, this is the child she loved with the whole of her heart. Now think about it. Patsy's not really trying to... she's not focused on healing the child or the health of JonBenet, just on hiding the spots. And also, which doctor do you think Patsy called? And if Patsy called Dr. Booth in 1995, and if she was asking him how she could hide chickenpox spots so she could enter a pageant or do a photo shoot, did he forget to mention that when he was questioned, when he gave interviews? The housekeeper thinks to mention that, but he doesn't. Did he forget to mention that when he said there were absolutely no signs of anything? And how come in his detailed reports there's no chickenpox entry for the whole of 1995? Well, that's unless I've missed something. Or is the housekeeper's story unreliable? Because someone's story here seems to be unreliable. All right, that is the end of part 2. I'll be posting part 3 in the next couple of days, so look out for that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.